Who doesn't love Walt Disney and his empire of warm, fuzzy family entertainment? But without his brother Roy, there would have been no Walt. No Walt Disney. Their childhood was not warm and fuzzy. Their dad was beyond strict with his 4 sons and basically saw them as moneymakers. Roy was older than Walt by 8 years, and from the beginning, he sensed that Walt didn't have the common sense most kids did. It was his job to be Walt's protector. He pushed baby Walt around, and later their little sister Ruth. Roy took Walt to watch the trains passing by each day, and on hot days to the nearby creek for skinny dipping. He bought Walt toys and candy out of his own money, took him to movies, and played horseshoes with him. About one thing they were in agreement. Said Roy, "He was a pet around the house." Walt smirked. "I was sort of the pet in the family." Walt discovered his love for drawing when a neighbor in Marceline, Missouri, paid him a nickel to draw pictures of his horse Rupert. No money in drawing, his father insisted. Ha! Instead, he put 9-year-old Walt to work with Roy on his delivery route for the Kansas City Star. The Disney brothers woke up at 4:30 a.m. and delivered hundreds of newspapers until the school bell rang, then went back to work after school until dinner. They never got to keep the money they earned. Dad said they owed it to the family. Walt found the paper route exhausting and often fell asleep in class, harming his grades. He kept it up for more than 6 years, but for 40 years afterward, still had nightmares about missing customers on his route. Roy was a comfort, like a substitute father. We were great pals, and anything that happened I'd tell him. I never kept anything from Roy. They did have fights, but over small things, like Walt borrowing Roy's ties and spilling chili and beans on them. At night, they slept in the same bed and told each other stories. The Disney brothers tell different stories about their dad's treatment. Beatings and whippings were his idea of discipline. Most telling of all, Walt's older brothers, Herbert and Ray, fed up with the constant work and lack of spending money, went out a bedroom window and disappeared in 1906. About Walt, Roy claimed, "Us older kids said that he got off easy with Dad because by the time Dad got around to him, he'd worn himself out chasing us. So Walt had an easy time." Walt might have disagreed. He couldn't help arguing with his dad and talking back. Sometimes he would have to push a chair in between them for temporary protection. One day, as 14-year-old Walt was headed down to the basement for a beating, Roy urged him to physically stand up to their dad. He did, and his dad never threatened him again. Plotting his escape, Walt attended art classes wherever and whenever he could, looking for chances to use his growing skill as an animation artist. In 1917, Roy joined the Navy to fight in World War I. Walt was anxious to follow him, but he was only 16, too young for the military. So Walt lied about his age and spent a year driving a Red Cross ambulance in France. Upon discharge, Roy was hospitalized with tuberculosis in Los Angeles. Walt, by then 18, traveled to see him about an exciting offer he'd received, asking for his brother's help. Roy left the hospital the next day, against medical advice, starting his career as a banker and BFF to Walt. Walt had succeeded in opening his own animation business, creating cartoons called Laughograms. He studied Aesop's fables as a model for his modernized fairy tales and, with Roy's help, wanted to start making movies. In 1923, the brothers teamed up and founded Disney Brothers Studio in Hollywood, entering a partnership that would last 43 years. Roy was the respectable one, while Walt was a starving artist, subsisting on new ideas. He had to go to Roy to get money for paper to draw on. He slept on some cushions when he had to, and once, went 3 days without a meal. At the cheapest cafeteria, the brothers worked out a system. One would choose the meat, the other the vegetable, and then they'd share, considering